I, Chad Human,
I, Chad Heatman,
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa and the ordinance of the City of Eldridge, Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa and the ordinances
Iowa,
of Iowa,
and that I faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge all the duties of the office of the police officer in the City of Eldridge. Okay, all right. Oh, sure. That I will faithfully and impartially,
I will faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties of an officer in the police City of Eldridge,
discharge my duties as officer
the City of Eldridge,
in the City of Eldridge,
now and hereafter required by law.
here and now after required by law.
We'll get all faces close together. Face. Right.
Yeah, go to my system.
If anyone is not signed in, if you could sign in, please. Sean, I got you.
Who else? Pardon me. Yeah. What's that? On the 21st. It is, yes. Yeah, well, thank you very much, Councilman. Appreciate that.
Just in a couple of minutes, he will be here in just a few minutes.
So, no, if you didn't want to hear it, hold on, great. Your daughter's Sunday. So small.
Yeah, she said she signed.
What? We've been waiting for you. Excuse me.
Very good.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. When you're ready to go. Good?
Good.
Good. Order the City of Eldridge, Iowa City Council meeting for Monday, August 23rd, 2023, at 7:02 p.m. Roll call.
Blackwell,
Present.
Keith,
Present.
Peters,
Present.
Zachary,
Present.
Collins,
Present.
The allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approve the agenda. Motion by Doctor, second by Collins. Say aye. Ayes have it. Number 4, public comments. Does anybody have anything to say this evening from the public?
That's not.
I don't know which one you would like to go first.
I can go first.
State your name, please.
Okay, I'm April Russ, and I'm here to talk about donations to the police department and what that may look like in the future. Myself, my company, and lots of other people donate to lots of organizations in this city, the school, and never have I ever heard of private donations being micromanaged. And even the hearing of that makes me, I'm not donating to City Hall. And if they want a donation, they should ask for one. The police department has worked diligently to get some things that maybe isn't within their budget, just like sports teams and anything else, any other people do. And if that needs to be further defined, whether if I write a check out for a specific initiative that they're doing or whatever that may look like, I want to make sure that in the future, I can make sure that's where that money goes and that I trust in our police department and our chief and all those involved to put that money where it needs to go, where they feel fit.
Thank you. State your name, please.
Hi, I'm Sue Cheek. I'm here representing the Veterans Car Club of the Quad Cities. I am also speaking of donations being made to the police department. We are a nonprofit and a group of volunteers, and we worked very hard raising funds for the police department. We did not raise that money for the city. It wasn't taxpayer money. This was donated by people specifically for the police department. So the money that we raised and gave to the police department should go to the police department. As April said, if there is any issue moving forward that we need to specifically write something on a check or somehow designate it differently, then we'll be happy to do that. But as a volunteer and using my personal time to raise all of that money and work as hard as we did, it's really offensive, quite frankly. It belongs to the police department.
You're welcome.
Yes, Mr.
I would just, oh, you want to go first? Go ahead.
My name is Cindy Cowlin, and I'm actually here to read a letter that my husband wrote. He is out of the state, but Chief Sizzler was going to read it, and I offered to read it to show my support. So without further ado, Mayor King, Ms. Lemke, and distinguished council members, I would like to extend my appreciation for taking the time to read this letter as I voice my concern regarding the handling of my multiple donations to Eldridge Police Department and, in my opinion, what appears to be an agenda of interference from one or more members of City Council. I would like to begin by making it clear that I am an outspoken supporter of law enforcement, having just arrived in Iowa a little over a year ago. I found an impressive police department in Eldridge and a dedicated leader of that department in Chief Joseph Sizzler. From the first meeting with the chief, he embraced our arrival in Iowa and welcomed both myself and my wife with open arms and an invitation to enjoy all that Eldridge provided in the community, which we frequently do by attending Cornerstone Baptist Church and often dining in the city. To the point of this letter, I found Chief Sizzler's goals and visions for the department compelling enough to donate $11,000 to date for his programs and needs. I realize the difficulties the city has in budgeting and being able to provide for all of its various departments and when funds are not freely available. However, what I do not understand is how or why the city council sees fit to try and control funds donated directly to the police department by outside citizens such as myself. When I donated funds, it was with the understanding and intention that Chief Sizzler would have full discretion on the use of those funds to aid the department as a whole and to improve and hopefully provide what may not have been an option prior to the donations. I have been informed that the city council has attempted to claim oversight on donated funds with no regard or understanding of their purpose. I find this type of interference absurd, and it is, in my opinion, a direct attempt by the council to try and assert its dominance over the chief. I have attended council meetings and have seen firsthand what appears to be personal agendas and attempts to interfere with the police department's development and growth in your growing community. The latest of these attempts to thwart the chief is with regards to the addition of a new vehicle into the police fleet. My donations, and I dare say that of other private donations, were made with the full trust and authority for Chief Sizzler to use these funds as needed for the betterment of the department as a whole. When the K-9 program was successfully funded, it required a vehicle to be removed from the motor pool and dedicated to the reconfiguration and use by Marty and his handler going forward. This unit would no longer be available for use by the department for patrol by any other officers, and as such is required to be replaced to provide the department the required equipment, which patrol vehicle is necessary to ensure the safety and protection of the city's population. I dare even say that this vehicle would fall under the K-9 program as it is a direct replacement for other equipment surrendered for the benefit of the K-9 program. Yet at each turn, Chief Sizzler has been met with direct opposition by specific council members in what appears, in my opinion, to be nothing more than a personal desire to impede Chief Sizzler and the department. For the record, I instruct that the council allow the full and unimpeded use of my donations, past and future, in any manner that Chief Sizzler sees fit, without any interference or oversight by the city council or other administrative office. If this is not possible, then I require the refund of my donation in full immediately. I also ask the council to take a moment to look within itself to recognize when matters like this are met with legitimate debate, and when it is met, this type of interference is nothing more than personal agendas prohibiting the development of a very positive agency.
Just matter clarification and information. I assume part of that is directed at me from last meeting. But if you look at the situation, we have been accused by many things of lack of attention to details and lack of oversight. Last meeting, I merely brought up that this money was raised for the specific purpose of purchasing a vehicle for the K-9. Using donated funds for any other endeavor is highly unethical and in most cases illegal. So immediately after the meeting, I talked to Chief and said, hey, I think this is a good idea. I just want verification that all the people that donated, or the majority, are okay for this going to a different cause than they intended. And you people all spoke up exactly saying the same thing. You want your money to go where it should go. And that was to purchase a new K-9 car. We already had one. So At that point, I did not feel the council could say that money that you donated could be used to buy a vehicle for the police department. We had a K-9 vehicle already. I told the chief I didn't want this to hold up anything, and as long as he could give me his personal word that there would not be a problem with people donating it, I said I was fine with it. So I appreciate everybody taking an interest and coming in and express your views, but look at the details of the law and look at the situation we're in. I'm looking out for the police department. I'm looking out for your money. I'm looking out for the city. Period. I have no agendas, never have, other than I represent the vast majority of the citizens. You can talk off the record to Chief Sisler. I've been very supportive of him and his department, and I communicate with him. He communicates with me. And if you think I have a personal agenda, even less than you apparently know.
Did we finish public comment now?
I'm sorry.
I honestly didn't watch the meeting, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
I didn't either.
I just got wind that they were gonna be directing funds in a possible way that was gonna be not where I intended my funds to go, and that's why I'm here. I didn't even have any
Well,
recollection.
at the last meeting, your funds were going to where you did not want them to go. So I was making sure it was okay, and it might be a technicality, but
Nice statement. Ryan Yossi. And I'm here for the same reason, obviously, but I got a little bit of a different twist to it. Because I wasn't able to make the meeting, so I watched it, my first meeting actually watching online. Which if nobody in here has ever done that, I suggest it. Because everybody that's here represents Eldridge, and if you watch the video and you're not 100% proud of how you're acting and reacting with each other, I think you need to kind of set back and take a look at it, because I think as a whole, Eldridge could do a better job of being more professional, even if we disagree. And so we talk about oversight, and I'm not 100% against oversight. I think having that discussion, if the chief brings ideas of what he wants to use those funds for, I think it's a great idea, because it stirs conversation, and somebody else might have a different opinion that chief might be like, that's a good point. But what I had the most problem with was the squad car. Obviously, as a donor, we put a lot of effort, a lot of time from the beginning into this program. I was actually, it exceeded what I kind of told you that today. It exceeded what I thought the capabilities were, which I'm very proud of that. And I understand the reason for him pulling that squad out of service, because there was not one available. And I've been in public service for over 22 years. I understand how the inner workings of allocated vehicles and that stuff goes. What I took insult to is the fact that the discussion was even out there that that squad was pulled out, put into service as a K-9 vehicle, and then now is not going to be replaced. That to me was an insult that, we just took something away from the city of Eldridge Police Department now by taking a squad car away and not putting it back in that position. So again, I think it's clear what everybody intended donating. I think that's our hopes, that we were proud of what happened. I don't want to see us go backwards. I told the chief the same thing. I think what really needs to happen is more thorough communication back and forth, and then talk about the ideas. But ultimately, I think that everybody's intent was for that money to go towards.
My name's Randy Swans, and let's go a little different direction. I've been blessed to be on different committees over the years and shared a nursing home for 15 plus years and a different school board. And the group that I was part of, I was just so proud of it, because it was never about it. Their goal was what better the community, what better this particular organization, whether it be a school, a nursing home, whatever. And, I looked at this group and I think they have the same philosophy in place. What I heard in this idea of these monies, I think it was cups, it was a coffee with a cup, and a young lady came to Mr. Chief Sisler and said, I believe that here's $100 to go towards a K-9. And then it's all these months later, and here we are in excess of $100,000+. And what I find interesting is if, and again, I just get things you hear, but then if this organization is questioning what Chief Sisler is using the money for, And if you didn't have the authority to use those monies that were raised, I think that this council should have told Chief Sisler in the very beginning, hey, these monies might be coming in and the way you've organized this, but please understand we have oversight of it. And I think we as a community, if we would have known regardless of whether it was $1 or $100,000, if it really wasn't up to Chief Sisler for what he deemed necessary for this dog and or now an additional vehicle, you should have made all of us aware that you have the final say so on where those monies go. So if I'm misspeaking, I apologize. It was just my perception. Thank you.
Check this. I'm a firm believer that donated money is donated money. It's taxpayer money. And everybody out here pays taxes. So if Chief Sisler wants a car that has to be paid by taxpayers' money, then we should have a say in it. But if he has the money to buy the car, it is donated money, and that's what he wants to do. I believe all he should have to do is go to the city administrator and say, this is what I'm going to spend the money on. So there would be oversight because the city administrator would say yes or no. I don't think the council should have any say in what's spent. And forever and every, as a member of a group that donates money, when I want my money spent, I want it spent for what it's intended. And that was donated to the police department. It wasn't donated to the city. And so the city shouldn't have a say in where that money goes. It should be Joe Sisler. This is what I want. And he goes to Nevada, the city administrator, and say, this is what I'm going to buy. And that should be it.
Please.
Ron Yossi, I don't have a comment, I have a question. Doesn't state law, municipal law require this council to have oversight and approve all bills?
That's correct.
Yes.
Sean Eckhart. I echo a lot of what all these other people say. I just think when I donated money to the police chief and for the K-9 unit, I fully understood that it would be for the K-9, but it would also be for whatever it's in the police department. And I trust this man. This is a good man. So we have one of the best police chiefs we could ever ask for. That's really, in addition to what they said, that's all I had to add to that.
State your name, please.
Sue Chief, I would like to say then if the council is going to have oversight, then perhaps the police department could open a special account somewhere that people could just come donate. Then we wouldn't have to worry about the oversight of the council, correct? Our money could go exactly where we want it to go.
So if there was a separate agency or organization set up, like a nonprofit,
Mhm.
501c3,
Yep.
then they would then become a private nonprofit
Yes.
charitable organization. There are some regulations on how that money changes hands between a public agency, because anytime that comes to a public agency, then they are responsible for having oversight over the funds. So if there's a piece of equipment bought for the police department that they're using here and their job duties, then
Right, so I guess
ownership would then be,
what I'm saying is we open this account, people donate to it. You have certain members of this community that are on that account, that oversee that account. They're trustees of that account. It reaches a certain level and Mr. Sisler comes and says, hey, I need a new car. We go buy that car with the money we raised and donate it to the city, to the police department. What kind of oversight would the council have over that?
then the equipment would become city property and be insured and be liability that the city then takes responsibility for.
Right.
That is not, something that can't be done. An agency can certainly do something like that. But I would just recommend working with their auditor, their financial firm to make sure that any legality, then that changing of hands of equipment or monetary value, anything like that is accounted for properly. But again, if it's money, then once it becomes a public fund, then it is subject to oversight by council for the protection of those funds to ensure that they're being spent in the way that they were intended.
The lady in the back, state your name.
Tisha Bushel. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I just wanted to say that I've had personal dealings with Joe. Chief Sisler, I'm sorry. He is, I think, a phenomenal police chief. And when the citizens are putting their trust and donations and putting it towards the police department, that's where it should go. And he should be able to spend that as he sees fit. He's the one out there on the streets seeing what's happening in our community. And I thank him for that. There's a lot that people don't see and don't understand that's going on behind the scenes. He's right there and he knows what's going on. And we need to hear him and follow him. As long as he is showing where that money's going, and as long as the people that are donating are happy with where it's going, that's where it should be.
Thank you. Yes, state your name again, please.
April Russ. So I don't mind the transparency, talking, communication, anything like that. But the other thing that I would want to state is in the future, if city council or the city administrators, all that have control over this donated money, then that does not affect the budget year to year. The standard budget year to year that he gets, period. That would be additional monies.
Anybody?
Hello, Brian.
First of all, state law is very clear on what we can and can't do, on what oversight we must have. There's no question. Specifically with the canine, that's one thing. Other donations, that can go into a certain fund. Other donations, the police department have to go into a separate fund. They have to be totally separate. If the donation was specifically for the canine, that's the only thing that can be spent. But the other donations could be spent on other things. We all support the police department, don't get me wrong. But my point of the car is, first of all, that car is not out of service. It's got a dog. It's still on the street. The shift's that patrolman, it's gonna work. It's not like the car's gone. We currently have 6 or 7 cars in our fleet according to our insurance program. When I came up here yesterday afternoon late, there's 3 squads sitting out here. My issue is, do we really need another car? It's not going to the canine. I already spent almost 30 grand in upgrading the 26,000. It's almost 30. Before the car to upgrade the one to make it a canine, which canine funds were used for that. I think that was a proper application of those funds. To take those funds and buy another squad car that's not going to be used for a canine, to me, is not appropriate use of those funds, and I don't think the state would do it also. So it's part of the thing is you don't understand the rules of state laws. We're bound. This, as Mr. Yossi said, this body is responsible for every penny that goes through this city, whether it's police department, community center, everything.
So then, since I'm getting the desk there, let's just talk about it then. So is that something that you're gonna give me my money back and then the next initiative he has, like say it's for the car and it's what we're gonna raise money for, then that's okay? Is that what I'm hearing, legality wise? If it's for a specific initiative,
If it's,
I'm asking. I'm impartial. I don't
Yeah.
care. I'm just asking, like, if my money needs to be like, because I donate a lot. If my money needs to be like, hey, we need a car. Okay, great. In the little memo, I can write for a police car. Like, if we have to have certain initiatives to raise money and it needs to be in that memo, is that all you guys are asking? I don't, you're right. I don't know all the legalities.
That limits it to the only thing it can be spent.
Okay.
Now, what we're also missing is, yes, we got the canine, we paid for the canine, we upgraded the car. That money, my understanding for building the reserves is to take care of that dog in the future. It wasn't to spend it all in the first year. I mean, what are we gonna do if that dog goes down and we determine when we put the canine? We have funds there to replace it. If the dog gets hurt, you know, the vets are
What
gonna.
ifs. There's always what ifs. I mean, I live this, there's what ifs every day.
We didn't designate the funds to any specific thing.
And it should have went into a certain fund within the city budget.
It was donated to the police department without a specific, yes,
So,
please.
for the police department, there is a line item for donations that are not specified to a specific item that go into the general police department donations.
Okay.
They can only be spent on police department items.
Right,
only.
I totally get that.
That's what the council has to ensure, is that when they come forward asking to spend that donation money, that it's being spent in the police department on appropriate items for the police department, because if it's not,
Right.
then the council's responsible if
Sure.
something comes.
And I get that, you know, if they're having a specific fundraiser for a specific thing, that money needs to go towards that
Yep.
very specific purpose.
So
But
they get a
the
new line.
fundraising that we did, we didn't designate it towards a specific
Yep.
purpose.
So that can go towards anything in
So
the
it could go
general.
towards the
department
car.
Donations could go towards anything that the police department brings to the council, and the council deems to be an appropriate use for the police department for those funds. Now, specifically donated for the canine will go into a separate line item for canine donations, only to be used on something related to the canine use.
So moving forward, what we as the citizens who do this volunteering and want to raise funds and donate should somehow specifically designate where we want it, or if we want it to just go to the general police fund. So it doesn't get specifically designated for this one thing. So once they get that one thing and there's leftover money, I mean, what happens with that leftover money if it's specifically used for, say, the canine, and now there's still money sitting in that account? What would happen with those
It
funds?
sits there until they have another expenditure for the kingdom.
At a certain point, there would be an opportunity for the council to move those funds then into the general police department, but never out of that department's fund. But
Okay.
there would be a public process for input opportunity for anyone that donated to that specific item.
Okay.
Mr. Peter.
Well, again, I just want to clear up the misconceptions we have. My understanding was when that money was raised, the purpose was to purchase a vehicle for the K-9 unit. Period. I think we're all on the same page philosophically, but we're the ones here that have been under scrutiny for lack of attention to detail and poor oversight and whatever all we've been accused of. I've always played it by the book. And that's where I brought up that it is highly unethical and in most cases illegal to use funds donated for one thing or another. And whether you realize it or not, you were donating money to purchase a squad car for the K-9 unit. That was taken care of. This extra money, I did not feel that as a council, we had the authority to say, oh yeah, go ahead and spend that on something other than what you people donated it for. So I'm looking out for you people and your donation. Immediately after the meeting, I went to the chief and said, hey, I think it's a great idea if that money you have raised, if we can buy a new squad car from it, that's good for the citizens that don't have to pay that extra in taxes. He said, but I'm not going to be voting on an illegal thing. If you can get me an assurance that all the people that donated have an understanding of what they donated for and the alternative use it's going to be for, hey, I said, I am fine with it. So I wish people would understand the law, understand details, come to meetings and get a background before accusations and things like that. I'm serving you people. I'm serving the police department. I don't want to get caught in anything that crosses the border on legalities. And as it was presented, it would have been unethical, if not illegal, for the council to say, yes, we can take your donated money and use it for something other than you intended. But I also said, I understand the philosophy. It's for the program in general. And if you can get that straightened out, I am all for it. Period.
So two questions on that. I got, or two issues I see here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the city attorney from Brooks Law Firm speak up that last meeting on the video that I watched, and in their opinion thought this move, this purchase, because of the way the car was pulled out of service and then replacing that was in fact legal, was being done properly. And number two, I've got to disagree with you, Brian, that squad car is out of service technically. And that's from my 22 plus years in public service. That squad car is in service when that canine dog is in service or when that canine officer is training. And if he has a 40-hour work week, how many of those hours are subtracted away because of training and downtime that he gets for the comp? So we're essentially, if we take that squad and remove it, you're again shorting the city of Eldridge, which again, I don't think is fair. I don't think it was anybody's intent on donating to be able to short the city. And I've got a completely different opinion on the staffing number of vehicles that's necessary and needed. I know of some issues that I personally think are liabilities for everybody sitting right here. Citizens, taxpayers, everybody, with some of the conditions and some of the squad cars we have. I don't think we go backwards. I think we need more squad cars.
Well, the way this fundraiser was brought up several months ago, Joe's sister talked to me about this and with our other administrator, Tony Rue, there was a resolution created and I helped write it. And it simply states in there that under that resolution, that the canine donations will go towards a canine fund and or equipment. It says it right in the resolution. So it's pretty cut and dried. And this whole council, every one of them voted to approve that resolution. And it states in there canine and or equipment. So I think maybe moving forward when the checks come in, the same system we have in place should work. That's this body is legally bound to oversee that. That's funds the Eldridge Police Department. It falls under the umbrella of the city of Eldridge as a municipality. But it says in that resolution that any of that donation under the canine is for canine and or equipment. So in this case, the squad car would fall under equipment, which is the same donation as a canine fund. So I think moving forward, if people wanted to put a notation on their check, what part of equipment they'd like to use, the same system we put in place, but he brought up the canine program would work with clarification on what type of equipment, because the resolution does state canine and or equipment. Yes, Mr. Peter.
Just clarification, when that was presented, it was presented as canine or equipment for the canine, not just general. It was all canine related. So therefore, I don't think a separate squad fit under that. That's where I just want to get clarification and make sure that those funds can be transferred and used for that. That's my only concern.
Thank you.
Which is, we appreciate that because that's the oversight that I like to see, because it's checks and balances. It doesn't take off the table what the idea is presented, the validity of it. You're checking on it. That's what I appreciate that.
It's a strange way of showing it, I guess, but thank you.
Mr. Dusher.
Brian, we're gonna have to agree that we disagree on this one.
Yeah.
That's what makes the world go on. I look at that vehicle, it's still in service, it's got a dog in it, no different than the assistant chief taking it to our home. We've got 3 extras sitting out there. We have plenty of vehicles. If we're not maintaining it, that's a different issue. We should be maintaining. But the other thing that we have to go through and really drill down into this, since this has all come up, is the donated funds, the spreadsheets all merged together with the police department. So we really need to dissect that and see how much was specifically earmarked for the canine. There's 115,000 round numbers in there, but that's for all donations. Donations to the police department and donations that were specifically for the canine. We need to split those numbers out and see what those real numbers are.
Yes.
Who will be doing that and when?
We are looking at processes right now and making sure that things are compliant with the way that they need to be. So that will be part of, if that's out of compliance with the way that we need to track donations, for how they're spent and what they're brought in for, then we will work together with the city clerk and the police department to put a process in place that has checks and balances to make sure when those deposits come in, there's oversight on those to make sure they're going into the right line item. If there's a specified use for them, and then we track those down to make sure that they're spent appropriately.
What I'm wondering is, what you're saying is there's 115,000 in that account, but that includes non-canine donations.
Correct.
When will the public find out what the canine donations actually were.
As soon as we figure it out.
Publicly at a meeting or in the North Scott Press, or how will the public know?
It'll have to be a public meeting, that have to be disclosed.
I mean, I think we all need to know.
Yeah, so do we. I mean, just because the money's in the donation fund doesn't mean it can be spent for anything. We have to specifically, I do have a spreadsheet and I have copies of checks. Haven't gone through them. Just have.
State your name, sir.
Bill Tubbs, Gator, wife Mindy. We came for another item that's on the agenda, but I finding some similarities in what we're discussing. And I appreciate Councilman Cheek. He said, I'm a firm believer that donated money is donated money. I don't think that council should have any say over the use of it. Well, 23 years ago, donors from every zip code in the county gave $1.5 million to improve the building city of Eldridge bought for the Scott County Library. And we gave that money so that that building, on the good faith of the city, that building would continue in perpetuity to be a library. And I just find a parallel there that I can't resist commenting about.
Thank you, Bill.
And just one quick question. So Brian, how was it, like, when we sent a check, I don't know if the memo said what the check was for.
Mine did.
Mine did.
I mean, how are you gonna track those checks?
That's specifically if it's 18, I know.
But what if it didn't say that? That was the intent of the check.
Or then it'll go into the general donation for the police department, not specifically for the king.
But see, that's what I go back to from my earlier statement is, again, how are you doing here? Like, go back to that original $100 that went to Mr. Chief Sisler. I truly believe it should have been communicated that you guys, it was gonna go into a general fund. And not, because if we didn't know that that check had to say canine, it just went to this fund.
I don't see that that's the council's responsibility. Chief was getting the donations and that
But you knew he was getting a donation.
for canine.
For canine, so for the past year plus, did you ever tell Chief Sisler, hey, you need to communicate better with your community? That if you don't write canine on that check, it's going to a general fund.
No, I don't interfere with what he does. He's a good chief, you know. That's part of it.
Hold on a second here. But when, I'm gonna have Joe speak here about it, but when he came up with this idea, I told him that besides what the city was tracking, that he needed in the police department tracking itself in case there was a mistake. The name, their address, their phone number, however they want to be contacted, what exactly the dollar amount was and what it was intended for. Joe?
So as donations came into the police department and everything was turned over to be deposited into what's called our community police fund, it's an OA for my budget. There's a line item for canine, there's a line item for donations, and there's a line item for forfeitures in that. Even checks that came in that didn't specifically say canine, what happened is I pretty much figured, like, when you gave our donation to us, we said it was for a canine, so I turned it over and there's a line item for the canine line. That line item was told to them next door, and that's where it was put into. There was a spreadsheet that I turned over to Martha, has now, that has shows everybody, even if it was an anonymous, it's an anonymous donor, and it says canine. There's another one that says for donation fund, which, like the Quad City Car, or Veterans Quad City Car Club, they give us donations up donation line. So all that stuff was separated. Even if I was given a check or cash and it wasn't specifically said for the canine fund, the majority of those I just put into the canine fund. Now, when we wrote the letter and put it out initially, and I can go grab it off my computer, it states that we're raising money for the Eldridge Police Department canine and or needed equipment for the police department. I don't want to sit here and keep arguing over things. Martha has come in, she's checking over everything, making sure everything is right.
you know, I gave her stuff that should match up with what was put into the accounts on the city side. So that's all she's been clarified. Now there were checks that weren't specified in what it goes to. So like I said, I just put it in the canine fund. Her and SIPs donate to us all the time. That goes into our donation fund. Now, the biggest thing here is I spoke to some of our donors, the word got out, more donors were contacted, more donors reached out to me. The biggest thing is, you know, what city administrator had stated in the last council meeting, and city attorney even confirmed it, that what we're trying to do is replace a squad that was taken out of the patrol fleet, which Mr. Dockery is very wrong in a lot of things because he's not having an understanding of how our department works. I can't continue to explain things if somebody doesn't want to listen to how things work on our side. I have a statement that I plan on reading later on. And in all reality, I don't think I will. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm here for the police department. But the thing is, we're doing things right. I went to Nevada, we talked about it. And yes, we can actually take funds to make a purchase, a squad, to replace the squad we took out of our patrol fleet. The squad is not part of the patrol fleet. That is a separate part of the police department. That squad is used 8 to 9 hours a shift, either 4 or 5 days a week. No other patrol officers can use that squad. We have a squad car, a black squad car out there that's strictly for the SRO, which I agree with Ryan Yossi because he came in and asked me some questions earlier. That our city mechanic said that last year it is not safe to be out for emergency purposes or for patrol. That if you want your SRO to use it just back and forth from school to the police department or go to other schools, that's fine, but you can't use it for emergency purposes. So therefore, that squad does not count for a patrol. And what Ryan actually brought up was a good point. If something happens, how's he going to respond emergency to another school or to another situation that need to be, because that squad's been taken out of that capability for emergency. We have another Tahoe that continuously breaks down. It's lower model, but I have it assigned to one police officer right now. We're trying to drag the squad along and keep it as long as we can. My goal is if I can prevent cars from running 16 to 24 hours a day, it saves the mileage and the wear and tear on our squad cars. I have 5 squad cars, and you're right, my deputy chief has one for take home. I'm supposed to have one for take home, but I gave mine up to the fleet so the patrol guys would have one. I've been called out from my house numerous times to respond to help my officers on other calls. The deputy chief has one because he's another one. If I'm not around, he has to respond. Perfect example, and God forbid this happens again, the riots in Davenport. We needed those cars. We had to respond. Your command personnel, like your chief and deputy chief, need to respond to certain situations and emergencies. That's why he has a vehicle car as well. I gave mine up. I used my personal car. What kind of liability is that on the city? I'm not doing things to spend money to spend money. I'm doing things to keep our officers safe, to protect our citizens, and to make sure we have proper operating equipment. Not out here trying to break the law. Matt and I talked, we looked into things, and we were actually take money from that fund to replace an item that we removed from the patrol fleet. Now I was asked to actually talk to donors. I talked to some donors, and I told Mr. Peters I was going to. Several of you have come in. I guess the biggest question is, any of the donors here have any issue at all with the police department using that canine money to replace the squad that was taken out of this?
No. Can I say one last thing real quick, please, if I may? Sue Chief. Joe was talking about the riots. It brings back the whole defund the police and all the ugliness that was happening in the world. And I would think that you as a council would stop for just a minute and take a look at all the people that are here, your citizens that are here voicing their support for our police department that we truly love. You're not going to hear the defund police here. You're hearing fund the police from us. Please hear our cries to help our police department so they can help us. That's what we're asking for. We're not asking for you to go out and throw money to the wind. We're asking for you to help them so they can help us. That's what this money is for. This is for if we have an emergency at our house and I need them to get to me, I want them to come to me in a timely manner. This isn't just willy-nilly spending of money. This is very necessary money that we are asking you as your citizens who elected you to spend this money on. And I think you should all be very grateful that you have the citizens here that are willing to take their time and do this for their police department and for their city.
Say April Russ. I just want to say that the reason why I'm here, and I'm glad that I get to say this, is Bernie, you and I, Brian, we've agreed on a lot of things in the past. We haven't agreed on some things, but what I'm here to say today is I didn't care where my money went. I didn't have an agenda. I'm not taking any of this personally. Didn't know anything about it. All I know is that when I donate to the police department, I want to make sure that it can be controlled by the police department. Whether it's overseeing transparency, I want to make sure it's done legally too. But I don't put on the bottom where it wants to go. I don't care where he spends the money as long as it's to better the police department and what they feel fit. So I had no idea. I don't want anybody to take it personally, but I do want you to know that that is what my company, my personal donations, that is what all my intentions are for. I don't donate to the football team to buy the volleyballs. So, and I donate a lot of money to a lot of things.
Hi, sorry, Tisha Bushwood again. We need to also think, I've come up here and there's been a couple cars sitting out front, squad cars, but we need to think a little larger than that. The crime from other cities is coming out and going out our corridor. I've had personal experience with substance abuse issues with a family member. And you cannot have enough people get there soon enough to take care of that. And 61 is a huge corridor for drugs. And we all know our borders are not being protected. It's a freeway. We need as much help as we can get here because they think we're a small town and we're not on lookout. We need to be on lookout.
Don't get me wrong, we have a great police department.
I agree.
You know, when the chief came to us a couple of years ago, I wanted 2 more officers. What did we do? We put on 2 more officers. It all made logical sense to us. That's why there's 5 of us. We have disagreements, the way it is. But at the end of the day, we have to follow the state law. In the event the state auditor comes in, it's got to be right. Pretty much front page of the North Star Press saying Eldridge officials misusing funds. I don't want that. It has to be done.
That's great. You just need to know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very familiar with auditing and what I do for a living, so I get that. But I don't know what your state laws are. So we're your citizens. We don't know that. So it's up to you to maybe explain that to us and not be offended because we ask.
Can you spell that out for us?
So you don't have to necessarily put in the memo line of your check a specific item that it's for. If you're going to an event that is put on specifically for something like a K9 unit or K9 equipment, that money's going to be kept together and collected and deposited into the K9 donation. If it has a specific item in the memo line, it has to be used exactly for that item. If it says a chair, it's got to be spent on a chair. It's got to be exactly what that is. And our auditors help us through that to make sure that we are properly accounting for the use of public money. If it doesn't have any specification and it wasn't at a specific event, it goes into the general donations. But the thing, the general donations for the police department is they can be used for the K9. They can be used for any item at all. They don't have a specified use. They're way less regulated. The only regulation is to keep it in the police department for police equipment. And that's the only thing that the council has for those donations, to make sure that what the police department is asking to spend it on is an appropriate use within the police department. If they're spending canine donation money, the council needs to make sure that what they're spending the money on is actually something in the canine department, canine unit, something canine related. Because ultimately they will have to answer for the audit and for the spending of that money. So they just need to make sure that when it's going to get spent, they have that opportunity to confirm that, yes, that is what it was raised for and that's what it's being spent on.
So what you're saying is that even if there's not a line item in there, and I just want to clarify this in front of everyone, but as long as it's donated to the police department, it can be used for a canine or something to.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, so it can supplement those canine, if they don't have enough donations, but they have something for the canine they need to purchase, they can propose to use that out of their general donations, because that's still a need within the police department, and the council can look at that and confirm that and feel that that's an appropriate use of the funds.
Thank you.
Where it gets specific to something is where you can't move outside of that. The canine can't be used for anything else if it's specified for the canine.
Okay.
And these are legal clarifications that we're aware of tonight that we did not have at our disposal at the last meeting. So I just want to make sure that we went through the correct protocol, protecting your money, keeping our police department up to snuff the way they want to be. Period.
Take a lot of time.
Well, if there's no other public comment, we'll move on to 5A.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Consideration to approve the minutes from the August 7th city council meeting.
Thanks, Tom.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Seconded by Keith to approve the city council minutes from August 7th, 2023. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. 5B, consideration to approve the bills payable. Anybody have any questions for the bills payable this evening? No?
Hey, the only question I had was, I tried to look back today on the bill for construction, the bill for 8716. I just couldn't find out what we approved for the amount for that reconstruction of the building. What that amount was that we have pre-approved, not to go over.
I do not, but I can get that to you. I'll get that.
I couldn't find it. I looked, I just couldn't. That's what I couldn't.
Okay, I'll look it up and get back to you on that.
I want to say it was November, December of each year.
Yeah,
I looked back and I can't
Well, specific on
And then the reason I asked that is because I was confused on why the door lock was, bought by the city. Yet the rest of the construction project was done through Wilford Construction.
Because they had to replace the door, so it needed to have a new door lock that was going to work with it. And I don't recall the reason for replacing the door, but it wasn't gonna work with that, setup. And then it had to connect with the fobs so that the ladies at the desk could have a button to press without having to get up and go over and open the door for
And
people.
I think it's really cool how they have it. I was confused. I thought the lock would be part of the construction.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yep, but I believe it was just because of the fobs and the communication to go with the new door that they had to purchase, but I will clarify that and make sure.
Either questions were answered prior to the meeting. So, okay.
motion to approve bills payable for the August 21st, 2023 meeting. I didn't see.
My questions were answered.
Okay.
So questions and staff is gonna get back to me.
Okay. Mr. Peters.
You already asked that and nobody said anything, so no, I do not.
Okay, but do you want to make the motion?
Oh, now we're, I will make a motion.
Okay. Motion by Peters, second by Blackwell to approve the bills payable with clarification on the Wilford Construction final amount and the door lock. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Names, ayes have it. 5C, consideration to approve a temporary 5-day liquor license effective from September 16th through September 20th for the Eldridge North Scott Chamber of Commerce for Oktoberfest.
5-day liquor license.
I have a quick question on that, sir.
Yeah.
So usually we do the vendor, then we approve. This time we're doing the chamber. Is that correct? That it's not the vendor itself, that we're actually doing the chamber for this 5-day event? Because we've always done the vendor before.
It's just the 1 day event and then host.
That would be spelling.
So then underneath the chamber then would be the vendors then selling.
The vendors would still need to get their own liquor licenses. This is only for the chamber to go ahead and sell.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I will second it if there's no other question.
I was trying to look, I didn't see it on here. I'm going through it again. I didn't see the location. Is that at Sheridan Metals?
Step down Second Street. Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's 210 West Spring.
So you get to, okay,
That's their address, the chamber's office.
right.
Will they be out in the
That's
street
the-
in front of their office then?
Or is it, we usually have this thing only at Sheridan, the do the brew or so that we had before, or the wind down that's done off of the Scott County Park Road at the old church location before. I just want clarity as to where this is going to be held at. Is this going to be at Sheridan Meadows? Is it on Second Street or not? Like years past, years prior?
Yeah, they've had it about.
I will confirm the location just to make sure there's nothing that needs to be corrected with the license, but I believe it's on Second. Or I'm sorry, Franklin Street.
It's gonna be down here like you know. I just checked it, double checked.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. You'd like to much. All those in favor of approving the temporary 5-day liquor license for the North Scott Eldridge Chamber of Commerce? Favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. 6A, consideration the third and final reading of ordinance 2023-16, adding Title A, Chapter 20, Civil Service Employee Residency Requirements to the Eldridge City Code. Jeff, can I call you for this? Has anybody called or said anything about this?
Mayor, I'm happy to report we received no comments and there's been no changes to the ordinance since the second reading.
Approve third and final reading of ordinance 2023-16 as presented.
Motion by Dockery, second by Collins to approve the third and final reading of ordinance 2023-16. Roll call.
Chief.
Aye.
Blackwell.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
Dockery.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Reading ordinance 2023-16 passes. 6B, consideration of the third and final reading of ordinance 2023-17, amending Title A, Chapter 3, Section 5.02, authority of the Eldridge City Code to include the spending authorization limit of $5,000 for department heads on general engineering costs for projects directly related to daily operations or public facility improvement plan. Jeff, I'll call on you again. Has anybody else called in on ordinance 2023-17?
Mayor, I think we're on a roll. We've received no additional comments and no changes have been made to this ordinance.
Okay,
Motion to approve third and final reading 2023-17.
okay.
Second.
Motion by Dockery, second by Cheek to approve the third and final reading of ordinance 2023-17. Roll call.
Collins.
Aye.
Dockery.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
Chief.
Aye.
Blackwell.
6C, consideration of the second reading of ordinance 2023-19, amending Title D, Chapter 2, Section 28, 1L1, Light Industrial District to update principal permitted uses. Jeff, I'll call on you in again for ordinance 2023-19.
Mayor, we've received no additional comments and we have received, and that ordinance has not been changed since the first reading.
Make motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2023-19.
as presented.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Reed, second by Blackwell to approve the second reading of ordinance 2023-19. Roll call.
Peters.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Zachary.
Aye.
Blackwell.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Second reading of ordinance 2023-20 passes. 19, excuse me, Ms. Redmond. 60, consideration of the second reading of ordinance 2023-20, amending Title D, Chapter D, Section 29, I2, General Industrial District, updating principal permitted uses. Jeff, calling you again for this.
Mayor, we've received no comments and there's been no changes since the first reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Motion by Peters, second by Dockery, to approve the second reading of ordinance 2023-20. Roll call.
Zachary.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Blackwell.
Aye.
Second reading of ordinance 2023-20 passes. 6E, consideration of second reading of ordinance 2023-21 for rezoning of the lots 23, 24, 25, and 26 of the Grunwald Grove Second Edition from the R3 multifamily residential district to the planned residential overlay district. Mr. Martins, I'm calling you again for ordinance 2023-21.
Mayor, we've received no comments on this and the ordinance has not changed since the first reading.
Make a motion. 2023-20. Second reading.
Motion by Chief, seconded by Collins to approve the second reading of ordinance 2023-21. Roll call.
Blackwell.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Zachary.
Aye.
Peters.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
6F here, consideration of authorizing the Eldridge Police Department to purchase and upfit a new squad patrol fleet out of community policing funds at a cost of $64.12 to replace the squad that was moved from patrol fleet and assigned to the K9 unit. This is what was discussed earlier. You'll hear a motion to approve the purchase of the squad car to replace the one taken out of service for the K9.
I'll make a motion that we pay $61,664.12 to replace the squad that was taken out for the King.
Second the motion.
Motion by Cheek, second by Collins to approve $61,664.12 to replace the squad that is moved from the fleet and assigned to the K9. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Thank you, gentlemen. 6G, discussion on a lease agreement proposed for the new, to renew the terms on a Scott County Library lease. Anyone want to start? Well, for the record, there's never been anything by this body that I'm aware of that was ever said that they wanted to remove the library from the city or remove the library from the where it's at. There's been discussion about the lease. The lease is 25 years old. I realize the library is not for profit, but the amount that they're paying, I think, could be increased somewhat. They're not expected to pay the going rate on what anybody would go to come to town to rent that building. But I do believe the lease should be looked at and possibly the rent increase. Cost of living and everything else has gone up in the last 25 years since that lease was created. And like I said, nobody in this room has ever said they want the library to leave the town or to leave that building. There was some ideas presented at some time ago by the past mayor on some possibilities for that building or the land around that building. But even that wasn't said that he wanted to remove the library from that building. So I would like to open this up to any councilman that'd like to say anything about the library in this lease.
This discussion is premature until this body meets with the library board coming up here very soon. Or Monday. So, you know, they were kicking the library in the record, but I think discussion on this, on lease and all that is premature, so we can actually sit down and have a conversation with the library. In my opinion.
Well, I believe the discussion before we talk to them is probably, is a little putting the cart in front of the horse, but I think for the record, I would like everybody to state how they feel about it before we move on. Mr. Blackwell?
As a prior foundation board member of the Scott County Library System, and near and dear to my heart, I had about 3 residents reach out to me, and I emailed them back personally with that. There's fond memories with my children attending there, being a part of Miss Maggie, Miss Carol's learning program. We still support that now. My daughter, who just started college at Ambrose, utilize the library for books and other materials. So it's, you know, it's from age 1 all the way up to 101, and even thereafter. So with that being said, you know, I know there's been discussion regarding a city hall and police station. If we are going to do anything like that, I believe it might make more economical sense that we look at building new again, make sure we present it in a clear, precise manner to the public. So there's a state-of-the-art police station, and that the residents have a clear understanding how it's going to be funded. All I heard last time with it, that everybody knew that we needed a new city hall police station. They just didn't agree how it was going to be funded, how their money was going to be used. So that's fair. That's a fair assessment. I pay taxes too. So, but we need to look at that, how we do this as we move forward with the library in itself. I'm happy where it is. We still utilize that particular library. It's not about making money. So it's an amenity to the public. I feel it's a service that every community should have. And I think it's, you know, pretty good stance. I'm proud that the headquarters is actually here in Eldridge. It could be elsewhere, but it's in Eldridge. It's been here this many years. If you read the North Scott Press a couple of weeks ago, Governor Reynolds, you know, gave accolades to it. And I deal with possible additional funding revenues coming in. So this is a good library. This is a good library system that we have, and we need to do all that we can to support that. You know, as your elected official, so you have my word that. So I support the library, and we do all we can to keep those costs down and to maintain that, but renew that lease for an extended amount of time.
I used Bookmobile when I was in grade school. I used the library when it was located in the former Eckerman hardware store. I was part of the book brigade that carried books across the street and put them on the new shelves in the new library, which is now the current Chinese restaurant. And saw them move into the new facility off LeClaire Street. It's a fabulous library. I vote there. I've given programs there. I've displayed things there. It's probably about the only public place in northern Scott County where artwork can be displayed to the public, the meeting rooms, etc. I probably have financed a possible addition to it by all the books I've purchased at the book sales over the years. And I'm 100% in favor of staying in Eldridge.
Already commented.
Mr. Collins. You know, the library takes care of Grand Haven, and I'm near and dear with Grand Haven, and they come and they actually do monthly items for Grand Haven residents. You know, so we've had the bookmobile there. We have a beautiful library. I don't think Eldridge needs to lose our library. I think we have something that a lot of towns don't have, and I'm very proud of it. So I look forward to working with the library and making sure it stays with them. Mr. Jason.
Well, since I'm the one that probably started all this, I don't want to see the library leave either. I've said that from the beginning. In fact, I went and talked to both Bill and his wife. And the first thing out of their mouth was, I hear that you want to close the library. I told them that was the truth. Whoever told you that was not telling the truth. I suggested that we may add on to the library. And I actually asked Bill if he could help me and suggest some things for me to do. To try and get the police department in City Hall, because we definitely need one here. This building is not big enough for the police department, and it's not big enough for City Hall. Look, a couple different recommendations, adding on, building a new police department and City Hall. Actually building up off of the library and putting a second floor on it and having that City Hall and the police department. Now, for what we get from the city, from the library, for $400 a month is what they pay. That's $4,800 a year. After we paid the insurance on the building, I gave everybody here a brochure. And after that, we get $829 a year for that building. That's a 20,000 square foot building. It's $2 million to $2.2 million building right now. So I'm all for the library staying, but we've got to make some money on it too. And I would like to see whatever we get from the library go into a fund that will stay and be for just the police department and City Hall. So I'm all for another 25-year lease. I don't have a problem with that. I've been accused of wanting to close it and said that, and I'm going to tell you again, I never said it and I never will. The library needs to be here in Eldridge. I don't have a problem with that. But we do need a new City Hall and a new police department. About 3 years ago, myself and the ex-mayor met at Tony Sacco's, and we sat down and talked about it. And I asked him to contact the county and so we could get a meeting going with them 3 years ago. He told me he'd do it in 2 weeks. He never got back with me. So I've kind of like taken it on my own. I've talked to Frank about it. I've talked to other people about it, but I never said I wanted to close it. So whoever said that, I don't know who it was. That's how I feel. We pay them a lot of money every year to be here. We bought the building. The citizens of Eldridge bought the building.
Say your name, sir. Bill Tubbs. Let's clarify a few things. Eldridge benefits enormously from the presence of the library. Glad that everybody agree about that. In the fall, I think of 2019, Marty came to me with this idea off the record that the maybe we could TIF and get a new library and Eldridge could take over the building. What do you think? I said, it's a crazy idea, but it won't fly unless you want to piss off the people countywide who raise money to give to that specific library and make it what it is. And if you want to do that, let's proceed with it. But my advice is drop it. And Marty dropped it. Thank you. Bruce, I mean, recollection of our business is a little bit different.
as to who initiated what, but, you did present to me that site plan with lines on where the police department would go, taking over the area of the library where, which is now used for sorting materials and replenishing materials for the Alpine libraries. And going all the way out to, I think it's North Sixth Avenue. And so, and I said to you exactly what I said to Marty. I want to just piss off the whole county and proceed with this. But it's a fabulous asset. Let's keep it here. And I'll work with you and I'll work with anybody to find the right place for City Hall and the police department to be proud of.
Thank you, Bill.
I need to correct him a little bit. The site plan that I showed him, in fact, I don't believe I showed you a site plan. I said that we would add on to the building. And that would be going here to south, in the back of the lot. So. And you were against it, so.
Well, I know what I saw, but well, let's agree.
Yes,
Hi, Tisha Bushell. What I am seeing and hearing is everybody on the city council and the public is for keeping the library here. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But as the city council, even though the library is a nonprofit, our property taxes, everybody has to adjust as the economy changes. And that includes nonprofits as well. So I think our city council is doing their due diligence and looking at the lease and if there's adjustments that need to be made and if there's not. And that's what they're there for. I mean, it's not about pissing people off and dropping it. It's doing the due diligence as a city council.
Yes, state your name.
Ron Yossi, I have all the confidence in the world that this city council is gonna come up with a lease that makes sense. At the current building with the Scott County Library Association. $400 a month is not enough. I don't know what's too much, Bruce, or anyone else, but I think that's a little bit low. To clarify one more thing, so far as we want the library to stay in Eldridge, do we want the library to stay in the Eldridge and renew the lease on the building it's at now? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay. Because when this contract comes up for renewal, I'm really thinking about saying, oh, over your word. If you change that tune, fine. But that's exactly what you said. It's exactly what was quoted in the North Scott.
This is a good agenda, sir.
I said,
Because Bruce, we're gonna move on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to correct
Bruce,
that.
let's go to
We're just, we're just. 70, consideration authorizing quotes from LL Pelling Company for 2023 seal coat work in the amount of $87,744.60 for $56,243.70 funded out of road use for North 12th Street and Lincoln Road, $31,590 funded out of sales tax for the lot at Sheridan Mills. There was a thing in your packet from Brian Wetzel that shows the breakdown on where and what the work will be done in Sheridan Meadows and the 12th Franklin and then Lincoln Road, First Street.
So currently in road use for this fiscal year, there is, 588,000 between the, what was going to be a possible street light that won't be completed this year and street patching, which is where we've, taken the funds from to do two street patching projects that we just did. Taking away the patching projects 1 and 2, we've got about 59,000 left that we can cover the North 12th and the Lincoln Street projects that are on the seal coat proposal from LL Pelling. So the proposal would be to complete these projects this year as well with that, those budgeted funds that wouldn't dip into any sitting cash balance in that fund. It would remain as what's already budgeted for this year. The sales tax fund has a line item of 50,000 for minor projects that's allocated to park projects. So the Sheridan Meadows lot has several areas that are in disrepair that are being proposed for a seal coat project in this year as well to get a little bit of extension on the life of that lot using that fund that was allocated for minor park projects for this fiscal year. There's 50,000 allocated in the budget. The cost for the Sheridan Meadows lot repair would be about 31,500.
Right now, we're not in compliance with our ordinances on that parking lot at Fort Bucks. It's not just free. I think that needs to be done.
See the grandparents going to their kids' game. It's not pretty watching them walk across that. I think 100% we need to get her done.
Park board okay with us using them? Have you talked to them about using 50,000 out of that was for park improvements, miscellaneous?
So that it has not been discussed with their budget, and there was no specific project for this $50,000 line item. It was essentially put in place to help with whatever project they might come up with. So they are going to discuss it at their meeting as well. But generally, I believe Brian has already discussed that with them, and they were in acceptance with any help that they could get on the lot. So I believe this will go through rather than that with them once the council approves it.
Yeah, I'm just curious where we stand. I will check with Brian and see where we are with our comprehensive plan. You know, just talk to privately or outside of the meeting to just get an update personally or on schedule or get behind with monies we gotta put away for the future and stuff like that. Just a ballpark figure.
I'll make a motion to approve subject to for sure the metal subject to the park board signing off on that portion of it.
So
Motion by Dr. Reed, second by Blackwell. To approve the consideration and authorizing proposal from the LL Tilling Company for seal coat. Amount of $87,744.60. For checking with the park board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks. Ayes have it. 7B, open public hearing, proposed amendment number 5 to the Eldridge Unified Renewal. Second, sir. Motion by Dr. Reed, second by Blackwell. Go to the public hearing on the proposed amendment number 5. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Anyway, motion to close public hearing.
So, by Dr. Reed, second by Blackwell, to close public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay, ayes have it. Public hearing closes. B5. And I'm calling you for D and E.
Sure. So items D and E will actually be stricken from the agenda for tonight's city council meeting. We are waiting on a signature that we need for a technicality for one of those parcels that is currently fits within the ag.
Yeah. Yeah, I was under the misconception going into this that there's two parcels that were currently zoned industrial, that their primary use is agricultural, and they're currently in the current TIF district. We're just pulling them out, placing them in another district. But I found out due to some new laws in Iowa that any ag parcel that's over 10 acres needs landowner signature, no matter what the zoning is, and no matter whether it's in a current TIF district or not. We're also waiting on some paperwork from the assessor. I've got an email from Tom McManus, basically stating verbally that he's in agreement with the development agreement and everything else. But we haven't got the notarized copy back from him yet. But we should have it tomorrow or the next day.
Get to eat.
Motion by Dr. second by Chief to table items D and E to the next council meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Letter F, open public hearing on proposed Lincoln and Leclerc urban renewal. Open public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Blackwell, second by Collins. Open public hearing for proposed Lincoln Leclerc urban renewal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Hearing at 8:27. Everybody from the public? Your motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Blackwell, second by Collins to close public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay, ayes have it. Public hearing is closed at 8:27. We have the superintendent here in Nevada calling you on items H and I.
For H and I, it's the same situation, from amending the current existing plan. We need the signatures from those landowners for, going through with the actions to, establish the new urban renewal area. So, we would be looking to have council and then to go through the rest of those approval steps once we have those signatures.
April 7, 8, and 7.
Motion with Dr. second by Chief to table H and I to the next meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Have it. Letter J, open public hearings on the proposal to enter into a development agreement with Real Coal Incorporated and GTR Eldridge Property LLC.
Take the motion to open public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Chief. Second by Peters, on open public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Eight 28. Think with the public. Close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Blackwell, second by Chief, to close public hearing. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The hearing is closed at 8:29. There are no activity reports for this evening. Letter 9. Closed session for Iowa Code 21.5 1C to discuss strategy with council matters are present litigation or where litigation is imminent.
We skip all.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Otherwise, you're gonna have to jump
Yeah.
and sit here behind us.
No, yeah, sorry. Nevada, we did play now.
So, item L is also related to the urban renewal plan amendment and creation of the new plan. We have a development agreement that we've, already, the council has passed the resolution of support for the development agreement. But to finalize the process, we need to have that new urban renewal area established. And so the development agreement will also need to be tabled until we have the signatures for the urban renewal area.
Make the motion to table 7L.
Second. Motion by Dr. Reed, second by Chief to table 7L. Sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Ayes have it. Now we'll go. Number 9, closed session for Iowa Code 21.5 1C, discuss strategy with council matters or presently in litigation or litigation imminent, exposure to prejudice or disadvantages the position of the government body with litigation. That closes the regular part of the council. Thank you for coming. Can you give me a call? Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Happy birthday.